All right, hey everyone. I am wanting to explore the topic of forgiveness. Um, Forgiveness is a big topic. It's something that a lot of us deal with. Forgiveness issues. It's something that not everybody can come to a mutual agreement on. We've all we've all done wrong, and we've all been done wrong, if that makes sense. So today we're going to explore one of the most profound and difficult themes in both spiritual life and human relationships. As I've already stated, that's forgiveness. You know, forgiveness is something we hear about often. I think we can all agree to that one. Whether in religious teachings, self-help books, or even casual conversation. But despite its frequent mention, forgiveness is a deeply complex and often misunderstood process. And over my videos, you know, I've been touching a lot of deep subjects and a lot of deep content topics. And for a lot of you, you might be saying, well, why would you go so deeper? How do you know so much? It's because I've been through a lot myself. Most of the topics I speak about, I've been through almost all of it. And I have, started the journey to healing, and I've done a lot of research, and I've done a lot of self exploration. And one of those big things is forgiveness. And at its core, forgiveness is more than just a moral ideal or a religious directive. It in itself is a transformative act that has the power to heal wounds, restore relationships, and release us from the shackles of resentment and bitterness. But it's also painful, complicated, and sometimes seemingly impossible. I'm not going to lie. In this video, I am going to explore the true nature of forgiveness, its spiritual and psychological dimensions, and how it can lead to profound healing, both for the one who forgives and for the one who is forgiven. So let's start by defining forgiveness, guys. What does it really mean to forgive someone? Forgiveness is often mistakenly seen as excusing or justifying harmful behavior. It's easy to think of it as letting someone off the hook for their actions. But forgiveness is much more than that, guys. Forgiveness is not about minimizing the wrong or pretending it didn't hurt. It's not about forgetting or allowing the harm to continue. Don't get me wrong, guys. Forgiveness is a big thing, and you can forgive, but you're not going to forget. So don't think that forgiveness is something that happens and then you just forget about the whole situation. No. It hurts. You were wrong, and it hurts. Forgiveness in itself hurts because you don't want to forgive that person. You feel as if you've been done wrong and you want justice. And you're not going to stop until it gets done. But guys, we need to leave justice in the hands of God. It's not about forgetting or allowing the harm to continue. In fact, forgiveness does not always require reconciliation. Surprise. There are situations where reconciliation may be impossible or unhealthy. Yeah, you don't always need to reconcile with the offender. Not always. At its deepest level, guys, forgiveness is about releasing the hold that anger, resentment, or the pain has on our hearts. It is choosing to no longer let the offense define us, our emotions, or our future. It is an act of freeing ourselves from the emotional and psychological chains that can bind us to the past. In many religious traditions, forgiveness is not just a human practice, but a divine principle. In Christianity, for example, Jesus' teachings about forgiveness are central to his message. In the Lord's Prayer, we ask, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Jesus tells us that forgiving others is non-negotiable if we wish to receive forgiveness from God. In Matthew 18:21-22, when Peter asked Jesus how many times he should forgive someone who wrongs him, Listen to this, guys. Jesus responds with an answer that blows the concept of forgiveness wide open. Not 7 times, but 77 times. This is not a call for endless tolerance of wrongdoing. Rather, it is an invitation to open our hearts and continually make the choice to let go of our need for retribution. In other religious traditions, forgiveness is equally emphasized. Though the framing may differ, in Islam, for example, Allah is often described as the most forgiving. And the concept of tawbah, repentance, centers on turning back toward God and seeking forgiveness. Forgiveness both from God and for others is considered essential for spiritual purity and peace. Similarly, in Buddhism, forgiveness is often seen as an act of liberation, a release from the karma that bids us in a cycle of suffering. Guys, each tradition points to forgiveness as a way to transcend our natural human inclination for revenge, retribution, and holding on to past wounds. Forgiveness is a spiritual practice that frees the soul. In all religions, there's things that people all agree on, and there's things that the different religions are at war against, that they don't agree on. For example, I'm LDS, and my parents are non-denominational. My family in itself is pretty much non-denominational, and I'm LDS. And there are certain things we agree on, and there's certain things we don't agree on. But the thing that I see across all religions, guys, from my study, and I have been a part of Catholicism, I've been a part of Methodist, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, LDS, non-denominational. I've been a part of a lot of different denominations, and I've through my study of history in school within the different religions, I often see one of the big things I see here throughout all of it is forgiveness. That's one of the biggest things. No matter what religion you go to, forgiveness is pretty much a big thing. Now turning to the psychological journey of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not only a religious or philosophical concept. It also has a profound psychological, emotional dimensions. When we are wronged, whether by betrayal of trust, abandonment, or abuse, the natural response is often anger, sadness, and a desire for justice or vengeance. Holding on to these emotions, however, can cause lasting harm to our mental and physical well-being. Studies have shown that people who carry deep resentment or anger in their hearts tend to experience high levels of stress, anxiety, and even physical illness. Guys, I'm guilty of it. Just recently, I've had a lot of hurt and anger and resentment towards some people, and I'm trying to get over that. And I can tell you, trying to get over that and seeking help has been a big release for me, because I thought half the stress was coming from me not being able to pay my rent, or not having a job, or having having to deal with certain things. But that was not even half of it. Guys, the thing that was stressing me and causing the most anxiety and even physical illness for me was, and I didn't even know it till recently, till I started reaching out for help, was my forgiveness issues. And here's the thing. Guys, the act of forgiveness, on the other hand, has been shown to improve mental health, lower stress levels, and contribute to a greater sense of emotional peace. Forgiveness allows us to reclaim our power. Not by denying our feelings, but refusing to be held hostage by them. Guys, we do not deny our feelings. Feelings are perfectly normal. We're going to have feelings of anger and sadness and the desire for justice and vengeance. But we we shouldn't be denying those, but we shouldn't be letting them hold us hostage either. You know, here's the catch. Forgiveness is not a one-time decision. Okay, guys? Now, hear me out on this one. It's not a one-time decision. It is a process, often requiring time, emotional work, and patience within ourselves. It is normal to feel conflicted when we're asked to forgive someone who has deeply wounded us. Sometimes the pain is so intense that forgiveness does feel impossible. I'm not going to lie. In these moments, it's important to acknowledge that forgiveness doesn't mean we immediately let go of our pain. It's okay to take time to process the hurt, to feel the emotions, and to work through them. Forgiveness is not an event but a journey, and sometimes it involves forgiving ourselves for holding on to the anger for as long as we have. You know, forgiveness is ultimately an act of liberation, not for the person who hurt us, but for ourselves. When we forgive, we are not giving the other person permission to harm us again. We are saying that we will not let their actions control our emotions or our future. We are choosing to reclaim our agency, our peace, and our freedom. I want to emphasize this. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness or submission. It is a radical act of strength, guys. It takes great courage to choose healing over bitterness, peace over revenge, reconciliation over division. Forgiveness means we no longer let the past dictate the course of our lives. We are no longer prisoners of old hurts. You know, one of the most overlooked aspects of forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Many of us are far too hard on ourselves. We carry the weight of our mistakes, regrets, and guilt, sometimes for years, and we feel unworthy of grace or redemption. This can be particularly true if we've hurt someone else, betrayed their trust, or failed in some significant way. But just as we are called to forgive others, we are also called to forgive ourselves. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing our actions or ignoring the harm we may have caused. It is about acknowledging our mistakes, learning from them, and choosing to move forward with compassion for ourselves, guys. Self-forgiveness allows us to let go of the shame and guilt that can weigh us down and prevent us from becoming the people we are meant to be. It's important to remember that being human means making mistakes. But it also means having the capacity to heal and grow. We are worthy of the same grace we extend to others. Forgiveness does not always lead to reconciliation, though. In some cases, it may not be safe, appropriate, or even possible to restore a relationship to what it once was. Sometimes the person we need to forgive is no longer in our life, or their actions have caused harm that cannot be undone. Forgiveness in these cases is a gift we give to ourselves, not the other person. Reconciliation requires mutual effort, mutual understanding, and mutual respect. Forgiveness, on the other hand, can be a personal decision that is made independently of the other person's actions or response. It is a healing process that can begin regardless of whether the other party seeks forgiveness or not. In conclusion, guys, as we close, forgiveness is one of the most profound and difficult acts we can undertake as human beings. It is not a simple choice, nor is it always a quick fix. But it is a choice that can radically change the course of our lives. It has the power to heal wounds, transform our relationships, and free us from the burden of resentment and anger. Forgiveness is not about excusing the harm done to us, but about choosing peace and healing over the pain of the past. It is an act of grace that allows us to move forward, not because we forget, but because we choose to let go of the hold the past has on us. And as we forgive others, may we also remember to forgive ourselves, to offer ourselves the same mercy, compassion, and grace that we extend to others.